Hi everybody, this is Laura. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel. Today I have a layout that I made for a punched out Thursday to die for. I've been going to weekend crops for quite a while. For the last several years, we've been going to a Girls Gone Scrappin' retreat, and it takes place in Connecticut. On Fridays and Saturdays, they have a challenge where if you create a layout based on a sketch that they give you, they will give you some extra tickets to win some prizes. So it's really fun. I like to take part. So I was able to scrapbook this photo, earn some tickets, and also have a video for you for a punched out Thursday to die for. So in a punched out Thursday to die for, we use our dies and our punches to create scrapbooking layouts. In this layout, I just use my punches. I'm a big fan of punches. I am never going to destash my punches. I use them all the time, and I am very happy that I have them. I think they are a great tool to add some extra elements to layouts. I started off with a really beautiful background paper. It's a pretty wash with some text on it. And then for the strip at the top, I used a floral that has some butterflies on it. I used an EK Success punch to cut out a large scallop. I've had that punch for years. I first saw it on a Chamel video. I can't even imagine how long ago that was, but I picked one up and I have been using it ever since. It's just really nice to have that larger scallop. I also have a smaller scallop that I use a lot, but this is really one of my ultimate favorite punches. I punched out a border from black cardstock and then from a black and white pattern paper. I layered the two on top of each other, but I offset the black cardstock border a little bit just so there'd be some contrast between the pattern paper and the background. I think that the black and white pattern paper will already stand out against that pattern paper background, but this just makes it stand out a little bit more. And then for the top of that strip, I just cut a straight piece of the black and white pattern paper and then did the same thing with a strip of black cardstock. My photo is matted on some white cardstock and then again on some black cardstock, and I had some fun foam behind the photo to give it a little bit of dimension. I have a big bag of embellishments. These are left over from one of the My Creative Scrapbook kits from a while ago. I had already made a whole bunch of layouts using that kit, but we get so many embellishments that I had several left over, and I wanted to try to use them on this layout. I have some butterflies that I'm going to include. And then on the sketch, there are two thin photos with some journaling in the center. I have my photo in the center, so I'm going to put some pattern paper strips on either side of the photo. Even though it's different than the sketch, it still has the same basic composition. And instead of using strips, I decided that I would just use the larger piece of paper. That way I didn't have to worry about lining anything up. I attached the pattern paper down to the photo, I centered it on my page, and then I attached the photo cluster down. Now I'm going to start adding some of those embellishments to the page. I have those butterflies, as I said, and then I brought in some other smaller butterflies, and many of those elements will stay on the page. There was also a really nice piece of chipboard that I never got a chance to use on any of my other layouts, but I really liked it, so I definitely wanted to include that piece. And then I noticed that Simple Stories often has these little tiny hearts that they include as embellishments, and I'm going to have some of those on this layout as well. For the title, I'm going to use this lovely sticker from the 12 by 12 inch sticker sheet. I stuck it down to a piece of thick white cardstock and then I fussy cut it out. I know that I'm going to have to pop it up a little bit because it's resting on top of the photo, which is popped up on the fun foam. So the cardstock just makes it a little bit more sturdy. Then I layered some foam on the bottom part of the title because the top part is going to sit on top of the photo, and I needed 2 layers of foam to make the title high enough that it'll sit correctly on the page. Then I trimmed just a little bit of foam off of the back of the title because I was able to see it. And I, of course, don't want that purple color showing through the back of the title. I love to add photo corners to my layouts. I used an EK Success scalloped photo corner punch, and I punched out some pink and blue photo corners. I put the 2 pink photo corners in opposite corners and then did the same thing with the blue ones. I used ATG adhesive to attach down that large piece of chipboard because we all know that as much as chipboard is fabulous, it doesn't always stick in the long run unless you add a little bit of extra adhesive. For the butterflies, I added a little bit of foam to their wings so that their wings would be popped slightly up off the page, and then I adhere the center of the butterfly straight down to the page so the wings are raised a little bit higher than the center of the butterfly, and I like the way that looks. I'm sorry about the way the layout is framed by the camera. Sometimes when I go to crops, the filming when I'm there is often not my very best. But I think that you could see everything that I've done so far on the layout. It just looks better to have the whole layout visible. So sorry about that. I have 3 large butterflies. I use the fun foam to pop up the wings of all 3 of those butterflies. And then I'm popping up the wings of another smaller butterfly that I'm putting on the left-hand side of the layout. And then there's a little blue butterfly on the right-hand side. That's a chipboard butterfly, so I didn't pop that up. I added a little flower to the title that says lovely, and then I had some leftover die cut branches from another project. I decided to incorporate those by adding them to either side of the photo. Now I'm adding some more embellishments. I decided against the stamp. I am placing some of those tiny hearts on the layout. Those are all little chipboard hearts. Right now I have a yellow heart on top of the photo, but I end up moving that to the lower right-hand corner. The photo that I'm using for this layout is of my 2 daughters. It was taken in 2019 on Thanksgiving. I can't believe that it was taken so many years ago. I feel like we just took these pictures. What I'm doing now is adding another layer of foam behind the wings of all of the larger butterflies. Because they're so large, I think that they can handle having their wings popped up a little bit more and have a little bit more dimension on them. I just thought it would make more of an impact. I know that some people don't like a lot of dimension on their pages, but of course you can add whatever level of dimension you feel comfortable with. I love having dimension on my pages, even though I know that having a lot of dimension on my layouts will mean that I can't fit as many layouts in one album. I still use plenty of foam and I just love that effect. So I'm kind of addicted to it and I do it all the time. I use gel glue to attach those die cut leaves down to the page. I use ATG adhesive to attach most elements down, but these die cuts are a little bit too delicate to use the gun on those. Sometimes I'll rip them if I try to use the ATG on them. As I was making this layout, I was thinking that it would make sense to have another border strip with the black and white pattern paper at the bottom of the page. It just somehow looked incomplete to me without that. So I cut out another strip of the black and white paper. I mounted on some black cardstock and then I placed it at the bottom of the page. I wanted to add another element to the page, so I decided to use a Martha Stewart punch. It's to the left of my mat, and make a border strip that would go along the bottom of the page. I used one of the pattern papers from this Simple Stories collection, and then I used whatever ink was left on my dauber to ink the edges. I think it had some black soot on it, but I didn't want it to be too dark, so it was fine that I just used whatever was on the dauber, just gave it a little hint of color. And then I bravely used my ATG adhesive to attach it down. Luckily, I didn't rip it. And I didn't use the hole punch. I punched out a strip and then I cut the bottom part of it off because I thought that it was just a little bit too thick for that area at the bottom of the layout. And when I mentioned that I used the black soot that was on that dauber, that's a Tim Holtz Distress Oxide. I like to keep a stash of these little white branches on hand. I think they look really nice worked into clusters that have flowers and leaves. So I add a couple of them to a few different spots on the layout. I have them worked into the floral cluster on the right, and then I place one with the branches on the left. I also place some at the top of the page where the blue butterfly is, and then I tuck some around the title as well. I don't find that it's always necessary to use the whole die cut, especially with these branches. Sometimes I'll cut them into smaller pieces, and other times I will use the whole die cut on the page. It just depends on the space that I'm trying to fit them in. Once I had all of those little branches where I wanted them on the layout, I used some gel glue and I attached them down. One of the nice things about participating in one of these challenges is I don't have a lot of time to overthink things and move them around. I had to kind of make quick decisions and put things down on the layout and be satisfied with where I had them. Now I'm adding some finishing touches to the layout, and one of my favorite finishing touches is self-adhesive pearls. You can see that I already have some pearls added to that punched out strip that goes along the bottom. I also added a slightly larger one to the flower that's on the title, and I put some small pearls on those tiny hearts. Now I'm adding some Opal glitter medium. This is Master's Choice from Hobby Lobby. There are lots of beautiful glitter mediums. I just happen to have this one because it was on sale, and I find that it adds a lot of sparkle and shine to the layout. Then after I added that to all of the butterflies, I got out my little bottle of watered down white acrylic paint. I covered up my photo, and then I added splatters all around, especially on the areas around the center photo cluster. That's the last touch that I add to this layout. This layout is complete, and here are some close-ups. I participate in a Punched Out Thursday to Die For with Ronnie Sue, Kathy, and Sonia. You can check out their channels. The links to them are in the description box. They not only have videos for a Punched Out Thursday to Die For, but lots of other great content too. So I think you're going to really enjoy watching their channels. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. I hope that you have a fantastic day, and I hope to see all of you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.